Anytime that you are paid for a service by a client, you need to make sure you have a client contract in your business. This is a visual representation of your relationship with the client, and make sure to hold either party, both parties, accountable for what you originally agreed to. Also, just in general, it makes sure that you both are on the same page when it comes to what is being agreed upon and what happens in a variety of different situations. If you're new here, my name is Rebecca Grace from Rebecca Grace Designs, and I'm a Squarespace expert and designer. And today we are going to be talking all about client contracts, what's included in them, where to get them, why you should have them, all of the things. So let's jump in. Before we get started, I just want to do a little disclaimer. I am not a lawyer. This is just things that I have learned as I go through, but I highly suggest making sure you're doing this in collaboration with a lawyer and not taking this as legal advice in itself. So we've already talked a bit about why you need a contract, and at its base, it's basically to help protect you if anything was to go wrong. But I like to think of it more as a way to communicate with the client about what exactly you are agreeing to when it comes to designing them a site. So what has to be included in this contract? The part that I spend the most time on when customizing a contract for a client is what exactly I'm agreeing to. So I go into as specifically as I can exactly what I've agreed to design for them. How many pages, how many words on each page, how many photos on each page. Am I doing blog posts? What about shop products? Am I setting up the shop behind the scenes in terms of shipping and taxes? Am I providing branding? Again, right down to how many words, how many photos. Will I connect a domain for them? Social accounts, email systems? Am I setting up their email funnel system? All of that sort of stuff, you want to go into the very specifics of what exactly you are agreeing to provide them. On top of that, you need to talk about how you're going to send files back and forth and what do they need to provide you. In my case, I am not a brander or a copywriter, and so I require all of my clients to send me all of the text they wish to see on their site, all of the graphics and photos and icons and everything they want to see on their site. As they're designing, there may come up a time where I want to add an image or an icon that they haven't provided, and in this case, I'll generally add some sort of filler image or I'll create a little icon for them, but they know that this is not my specialty, and this is more meant as a filler to show them what I think would look best there, and there to go back to their copywriter or their brand person in order to have something that's more on brand and more for their specific company. And so I make sure to state that in the contract, that they know this is not a service I provide, and I'm expecting for them to provide it to me, and this is exactly how they're going to provide me that information. You also want to state how many edits you're going to do. So do they get an unlimited amount of edits? Is it by a certain number of edits, a number of days in the editing process, and so on? I highly suggest having edits as a specific number of days in your project timeline versus a number of rounds or a specific number of edits. This is because if you do not set your timeline based on the days within your timeline, it's possible for that timeline to be completely thrown out of whack if your client is late getting back to you. So if you're in your contract, you've stated they're allowed 3 rounds of edits, but you haven't stated when those edits need to be to you or how many edits can be within that round, then you're setting yourself up for a project to go awry. If they do 1 round and then they don't get back to you for a week in order to do their second round, they're still entitled to those 3 rounds because that's what you agreed upon in your contract. So if you're not okay with that, then that's something you need to set up by saying, I will do up to 3 rounds of edits within this many days, for instance, or during this many days of the process, we will go back and forth for edits. After the 3rd day, your design is locked in place and no more edits will be done. Further edits can be done at a charge of X amount of dollars per edit, for instance. So you want to be very specific in terms of how many edits and how that editing system is going to work. You again want to state how long the project will be. So I'm very specific with my timelines. I make sure none of my projects go over date because I'm book clients sometimes back to back, and I don't want to then have to push those clients back further because another project has gone over time, and I don't deal with more than one client at a time. And so this helps me stay on track by saying, okay, our time goes from here to here, and I state exactly what my design process looks like and how it progresses so that I am protected if a client is kind of dragging their feet through the process. On top of that, you want to state your price and your payment schedule. And I like to attach the payment schedule to stages of the project. So for instance, 20% is going to be paid to me when they secure their spot and sign their contract, 30% on the first day, and the last 50% on the last day. And what this does is it helps kind of give a little bit of an incentive for a payment. Their design date isn't secure until they pay their 20%. I don't start their project until they pay the next 30% on the first day, and I don't transfer ownership of the website until they pay the last 50%. So that protects me and also makes sure that everything stays on time. The next thing you want in your contract is what happens with late payments. What if they're late paying you? What happens if they want a refund, they need to reschedule, they want to cancel, they've breached the contract, anything like that that has to do with a possible payment not being paid or something happening to stall or cancel the project. You want to be very specific about what your policies are and make sure they're clear on those. Another part of that is what happens if you get injured, you have a family emergency, technical issues, your computer crashes, whatever happens, and you're not able to complete the project. What happens then? The next step has to do with ownership and copyright. So who obtains the copyright of everything that you've created, of the website, who has creative license, does your name have to stay on the bottom and the footer, that kind of thing. What are you expecting in terms of the creative license and the copyright of the website once you've handed over ownership? Can you use photos for your portfolio, for your social media? Are they okay with that? Is that built right into your contract? That needs to be listed. And then finally, a signature. So at the bottom, you want to make sure that you have a signature so that you've both signed it. You want to make sure this is signed by the person in the business who has the authority to do that, and that you are stating yourself as the owner of the company and kind of separating yourself from you being a person to you being the designer within this company. So that's a lot of moving pieces. As I stated before, I am not a lawyer, but these are things that I've learned as I've worked with clients. The next question I get asked a lot is, well, how do I get this contract? I don't have the money to hire a lawyer to write a contract for me. So where can I get this information? Can I just use a template that I found online? I don't recommend that for the very specific reason that general templates that you'll find online will not have things that are specific to this industry. And so I found a very good kind of in between where I'm getting contracts from a lawyer, but I'm not hiring a lawyer one-on-one, and that is the Creative Law Shop. I use the Creative Law Shop for all legal things in my business. They provide templates for you to use that you can add in your own information, but they're all written by a lawyer that has experience in this field. Here is a link to the Creative Law Shop. You can find all of your legal needs on there in terms of contracts, privacy policies, terms and conditions, and so on. It's a great way to make sure you have all of these bits included without having to pay the fees you would if you hired a lawyer one-on-one. So now that you know what's included in a client contract and where to get them, check out this video to see the process I use to send and receive contracts and invoices from my clients.